Just over a year ago now, so it would have been June 2019. In the normal times, we went to a wizard-themed cafe. Really enjoyed it. Nikki's always been into fantasy things, particularly Harry Potter. I loved Lord of the Rings and Warhammer when I was younger. And we just thought there was a market in Sheffield in particular for a family-themed place where people can just come and act like kids. So yeah, we launched the Steel Cauldron. It is the most difficult time ever for the hospitality industry, and that's what we're in. When we initially signed the lease on this place, I think it was the 11th of March, we went into lockdown, I think 3 days later, and we weren't able to get any of the business grants that were available at that stage. The only thing we were able to get was the loan from Finance for Enterprise. So it allowed us to actually start the business. But also the assistance we got from Gillian as to how we structured the business. Really, I mean, without it, there would be no business. So we found out about Finance for Enterprise because a friend of mine came to this place, I think 2 days after we'd signed the lease. It was completely derelict. And I took him round and he said, "How much money have you got to do this place?" And I went, "Oh, about 25 grand. He went, "Oh, you'll need a lot more than that." And then he said he'd just set up a business and he'd gone through Finance for Enterprise. And he said, "You should apply to these guys." I, at that stage, didn't think we'd be able to get the funding, but we did. What Gillian was definitely able to offer us, though, is how you structure the loan application to make sure that it was presented in the right way to effectively tick the boxes, but it also made us really think about some of the questions that she was asking to make sure the business was going to be successful as well.
I think the Steel Cauldron's absolutely amazing. I think it's a great venue, it's a good location. And I think the idea of decorating it like this, giving it a USP, make it stand out. He'd done a lot of the work on his business plan. He'd done a lot of market research already, which is important. He knew the market. He'd been to a competitor somewhere else in the country, so he'd seen the concept and see how it worked. So I was pretty confident with him that, and he'd got a business background as well, so he knew a lot of his stuff, really.
Some people do 40-hour weeks and are tired. Nick and I have been working 100 plus hours now for the last 7 months. And you're working on adrenaline, it's a buzz, it's brilliant, it's exciting, but ultimately you're in control, you make the decisions, and that's why I want to run a business, because I want to make the decisions.
The advice I would give is to really think it through first. It's not magic.
I think it was critical. We wouldn't have been able to set up the new business without the startup loans, so the impact's been huge. We've had 10,000 customers through the building since we started. We've got 20 full-time staff now, and a successful business. And if it wasn't for that initial little bit of loan funding and the assistance with how we structured the business, none of that would have been possible. 70% of the people who come here are adults, and quite a lot of the adults don't bring kids with them. We have so many adults who come dressed up in like full fancy dress, and sometimes like in the middle of the week we'll have 2 adults just coming out on their own to make a wand in full fancy dress, which is just brilliant. I would say to every entrepreneur who's looking to set up a new business, pick up the phone and speak to Finance for Enterprise. Without their advice and the money, we wouldn't have been able to do any of this. The help they gave us structuring the business was crucial, but ultimately the money, you know, that is what sort of lubricates your business. Without money, you really are pretty struggling if you're going to do something like this. And that money, without it, we wouldn't have been able to do anything. So absolutely would recommend it 100%.